Namaskar दोस्तों, I am Rajesh Agarwal, advocate on record. Today we have a eminent personality, Mr. Sanjay Jain, who is designated senior advocate, a very calm personality, who is down to earth and very soft spoken, who had been holding various important positions in Government of India as a legal counsel. He had earlier been additional Solicitor General of India in Delhi High Court. Then he was also appointed as Additional Solicitor General of India in Supreme Court, and he had been a key person who has been looking after various matters of national importance. So welcome Sanjay ji on this YouTube channel, and I would like to ask you that I know you since the year 1988 when I joined the profession, because you came 3 years earlier in the year 1985, and you had also been a student union president in law faculty at that particular point of time, and always been very dynamic in personality. So during all these number of years that you have put in, what is your take on this legal system?
See, the legal system has grown manifold since the time we joined the profession. At the time we joined the profession, the legal system was primarily catering to interpersonal disputes. For instance, I have a problem with my neighbor, with some family member, or a person with whom I am doing business. So these were the broad contours of the propositions in civil law. And in criminal law, mostly they were IPC offences, a bit of blue collar crimes, but and maybe another branch we can say accident claims. But primarily the legal system was interpersonal at a very smaller level. People's day-to-day problems were catered to, and it was very robust even at that point in time. The profession was very good in the sense that the quality of lawyers were even then very good, even though computers etc. were not there. The industry and the application and the dedication which the lawyers used to put was exemplary, but the vision and the overall scope was very limited. I call that phase as a phase of litigation when it was like Ramlal versus Shamlal litigation, landlord-tenant disputes, etc. The big companies had litigation, but it was not too much. Delhi didn't have a culture of law firms. So since then, it is quite different now. From interpersonal, it has moved to the corporate level, at class action level, where issues pertaining to the whole class of people, whole class of employees, a section of society, they are all now being articulated. And the concept of liberty is much more prominent now in comparison to what we had to see when we joined the profession.
Sir, in the year 1985 when you joined the profession, I remember that you started from district court, and then you had a full-fledged office there and staff also, and so many lawyers who had been appearing along with you. And thereafter you shifted to High Court and then finally to Supreme Court. You find some difference of the difference between quality of legal knowledge of a trial court judge, or the pressure which he is holding, and then some see difference in high courts and at a higher level. What is your take on that?
Yeah, you have asked a very fascinating question, because your question actually calls for a narration of a story how the judiciary has evolved in the prism of Delhi judicial system. Because we lawyers have the tendency to speak about only the lawyer's point of view, but you have raised a very interesting and a very valid perspective. Because any system of justice delivery is largely dependent on the balance between the competence and I would say, the visionary attitude of judiciary, and also the hard work and the assistance of lawyers. Contrary to whatever may be the general perception, I believe that when we joined the profession, when you joined in 88, I joined in 85, 86, according to me, the quality of judiciary at that time was also extremely competent. They were very, very enormously talented judges who understood the law and who had the capacity to adapt the changes in law. For instance, when I started instituting dollar suits, the recovery suits in foreign currency of dollars. For a few judges, it was something new that instead of recovering in INR, we are asking for dollar recovery. But when I explained them that this is how it can be done, and this is how we are affixing the court fees, and this is how the money has to be converted. So within few minutes, they were completely at ease with it, and they all understood the concept. I am talking about 90s. So when the economy had just opened up. So the same judges who are primarily doing hardcore IPC matters, same way, murder trials, some other body offences, financial frauds, cheating, etc. But when the enormity of fraudulent activities, economic activities, when the enormity of the quantum of stakes, all that increased, judges were equipped for it. And then fortunately another thing happened, that in Delhi the strength of judiciary also got increased at all the levels, at the lower judiciary level, at higher judiciary level, and though of course High Court the number of judges increased much later, but there also the balance was maintained. And because Delhi High Court has a unique position in the sense that apart from the three presidency High Courts, Bombay, Madras and Calcutta, Delhi High Court has original side, so Himachal also has original side. So because of the original side, High Court had lot of niche litigation in the intellectual property, where the High Court judges were very good. They were the leading judges in the world. Their judgments were quoted not only in different parts of the country, appreciated by Honorable Supreme Court of India, and also appreciated in other jurisdictions. So during this period, it was a period of a struggle also, I would say, for judiciary, because there were many new concepts which were brought in. Old Arbitration Act was replaced, new Arbitration Act was brought. The concepts of their interference were restricted. So there were a lot of changes came. The consumer laws came. So then the consumer courts got separate, and then the tribunalization began. The service matters started going to Central Administrative Tribunal. So judiciary saw a lot of, I would say, churning process, turmoil also. The city grew, many districts were created, civil court was bifurcated, new criminal courts were introduced. So there was existential crisis for some courts, also adaptability was required. So I would say our judges in Delhi, the whole breed of them which got selected even later on, and even today, they are very, they all started as very bright kids. They adapted very well. A few instances here and there where they needed to be told by seniors that how to interact with a bar to create the good balance in the courtroom, because that is something which comes with experience. So we as lawyers, because as you know, sir, we as lawyers, all that we want is that we should get a good hearing. The judge should give us a good hearing, patient hearing, and if there is a genuine problem, we may be accommodated, our client may be accommodated. Rest, of course, the judgment is in the judge's hand, and we do not have any issues with that. At least I have always practiced with that attitude, that we should not comment upon the judgment, because what we believe is our perception. There is another perception which judge may have. If there is an unfavorable judgment, But by and large, the bar and the bench have acted with maturity in Delhi, and but for the maturity of judges also, this would not have been possible. But at the same time, I imagine that bar was also quite geared up and equipped to articulate the new developments in law to the judiciary, without which even judiciary would not have developed.
Sir, I'll be asking you some personal questions also. It is often said that anger is one word short of danger. How do you maintain so much of calm? And how do you think that judges should also maintain the same calmness?
See, my personal view is this, Rajesh ji, that as it is, the subject of law is such. I mean, if you come to think of it, when I appear before a court, I carry with me the pain and pathos of my client. When he comes to my office and he says that this is the problem that I am facing, I am virtually borrowing, or I am taking upon myself the pain and the agony which he is undergoing. So, if I am not able to maintain equanimity or some kind of stability before, emotional stability before you, and if I carry the same emotional instability before you, I mean, suppose you are a judge, then I will not be able to crystallize and organize my thought process. I will not be able to structure my arguments in a systematic manner, because my emotions will overtake me. So it is the first essential training for a lawyer to do some inner engineering, maybe do some yoga or some pranayam or some kind of a meditation to keep himself or herself calm. Because only if you are able to maintain an element of calmness up in your head, that you will be able to regulate your heart and intellect, to be able to give best to the court, the best assistance to the court, because ultimately relief is in mind, not in mind. I have somebody else's problem which I am going to narrate before somebody else, and my job is to persuade him on facts as well as in law that here is the litigant before you who deserves this relief. So if in asking that relief I am already agitated, then I will be losing my objectivity. So I realized it much early in my profession that losing peace, losing calm, losing your temper will not help. Even if the other side lawyer is shouting at you, yelling at you, interjecting you, trying to bully you, you try to deal with them in a lighter manner, try to persuade him. Only if he makes a personal attack sometimes, then he or she makes a personal attack, only then you retaliate, and that too maintaining the decorum of the court. Because that is all important, because if I lose my cool, I misbehave with a judge or a lawyer, then my client will think that it is a good thing to do, and he will also start, then how will I maintain the balance? So with judges also, I found that there were some judges who were very cool and calm, and they actually taught us the merit and virtue of remaining calm in the court. Because if you think of a judge, he is sitting from 10 o'clock to 4 o'clock. He is hearing so many people, and half of it, what he is hearing throughout the day may be relevant, something may not be relevant, something may be absurd, but he still hears and absorbs and tries to do justice. So the judge who is sitting on the dais also is your biggest teacher. And the biggest mistake which lawyer would do is this, to take the judge as an adversary. They should take the judge as the greatest ally, because he is teaching you. He is ultimately, he is the epitome and the ultimate pillar of that justice delivery system from where the justice will flow. And we are here as a lawyer to take the input material quoted before him. So all these things should be done in a very calm manner, cool manner.
Sir, but see, everything is codified under law. So any possible problem which may arise in anybody's life,
जी.
that answer is reflected in somewhere in the book, in the law. Still, we have different interpretations. A trial court will interpret differently. It will travel to high court and superior courts. They may have then a different version. There is a dichotomy, therefore, that why the justice is not done correctly at the first available opportunity, and why there is a requirement of appeal and different views, etc. When everything is so, therefore, then it becomes a skillful activity of a lawyer, maybe to present and to get a relief in some way by adopting one process of law or the other process of law, finding him selective in going to which court. Sometimes matters are filed directly in Supreme Court. Same matter can be filed by the High Court lawyer in High Court, and District Court will say that you go to District Court. Maybe some tribunal lawyer will then try to travel, get that matter travel to that court. How you a common litigant, because जैसे डॉक्टर है, आप सर्जन के पास जाओगे तो सर्जरी पहले सजेस्ट कर देगा. कॉमन मेडिकल डॉक्टर के पास जाओगे, he will treat you with a common medicine. There may be a requirement, there may not be a requirement of a surgery. So a common man will always have a difficulty which way to go and where to select. How he will relate this?
मेरी समझ में जो सबसे बड़ी चीज़ ये है कि जब क्लाइंट आपके पास आता है तो आपको उस क्लाइंट की एक तो प्रॉब्लम समझनी पड़ेगी कि उसका ऑब्जेक्टिव क्या है, उसको रिलीफ क्या चाहिए. तो आपने बिल्कुल सही बोला कि भाई पहले तो हमें ये देखना है कि उसकी रिलीफ जो है, जो उसको चाहिए, वो उसको किस कोर्ट में, लोएस्ट डिनोमिनेशन के किस कोर्ट से उसको मिल सकता है. और हमारी न्याय व्यवस्था भी ये कहती है कि पहले लिटिगेंट को लोएस्ट डिनोमिनेशन के कोर्ट में जाना चाहिए. तो अगर हमें वहाँ से वो मिल सकती है तो हमें हमारी जुडिशरी अगर अच्छी है और कॉम्पिटेंट है और हमें लगता है कि भी ऐसा नहीं है कि उनको समझ में नहीं आएगा, और ये हमारी परसेप्शन है कि हमें समझ में नहीं आएगा, जब तक हम ट्राई नहीं करेंगे किसी सिस्टम को, हम पहले ही प्री कंसीव नोशन बना लें. अगर हम मान लिया समझ में नहीं आएगा तो फिर किताबें हैं, आप हो, हम लॉयर्स हैं, हम मिलजुल के प्रयास करें समझाने का. So first of all, we should not have any preconceived notion about the competence or merit or ability to deliver justice of the court of the lowest denomination, and we should try to litigate there only and only move systematically in the appellate hierarchy. One. Secondly, you asked why do we need so many appeals, and where is the why do we commit so many mistakes? Actually, as I said, that the process is same, and legal laws in the sense that to the extent they are codified are also same. The factual positions in different, for instance in matrimonial, ultimately it is the allegation is of cruelty. The factual narrative may differ. In an injunction matter, I will have to say that this is my right which is being invaded. So factual narrative may differ, but broad principles are same. But then again, the scale of justice is never straight. It is always tilted towards the personal perception and ideology and the experiences of the judge. Because after all, judge is not a robot. He is not a machine. He is a human being. He or she is bound to appreciate a proposition or a problem from his or her personal perceptions, experience, ideology, political ideology, sociological ideology. So that differs. So to assess the same situation, same set of facts, your personal perception, the judges, different benches, personal perception makes that much discretionary relief which is to be given. That discretion depends upon the utilization of that baggage which a person carries in his mind.
There may be a possibility of inherent biasness for some
Inherent
reason or
bias.
the other.
Yes, it is a bias of the, इसको वैचारिक bias कहिए. It is not motivated by any extraneous consideration. It is an inherent bias of that person, or the inherent understanding or perception of that person.
But law books do not reflect that.
Yes, law books will never reflect that. Law CPC order 1 से लेकर सब वही है, rejoinder of causes of action है.
So you think that there can be a possibility of a deliberate wrong judgment having been passed because of some reason? जैसे मैं I should not quote, जैसे maximum punishment दे दी, जैसे अभी राहुल गांधी को 2 दे दी. We will not comment because that is a matter sub judice. But I mean such kind of a thing, can there be a, because of some pressure, because of his own biasness or inherent thinking, etc. Is there a possibility that a deliberate wrong judgments are passed and thinking that it will be rectified by the High Court or the Superior Court, and he will play safe, that he will not like to come into controversy. So bill grant it's a controversial matter में bill क्यों देनी है? Let it be done by and he has got means to go to the higher court, so therefore let it not be granted. आपने एक्सपीरियंस ऐसा किया क्या?
नहीं, ये तो देखिए, जो डिस्क्रिशनरी जुरिडिक्शन है, जिसमें जज 1 से 10 के स्केल में आपको 3 भी दे सकता है, 5 भी दे सकता है, 7 भी दे सकता है, और 9 भी दे सकता है, और 10 भी दे सकता है. ये इन तमाम, और ऐसे मैक्सिमम मैटर्स तो ऐसे ही होते हैं डिस्क्रिशन. भाई जो प्योर कमर्शियल मैटर हैं, जो प्योर डॉक्यूमेंट्री एविडेंस पे डिसाइड होने हैं, मैं उनकी बात नहीं कर रहा इसमें. आपका क्वेश्चन इज मोर ऑन दोज इश्यूज वेयर the presiding officer of the court has to apply his mind and use his judicious discretion based on the sound legal principles which have been developed, based on the judgments of the High Court and the Supreme Court, the constitutional courts which are already there. Several judgments now in 75 years of independence. There are n number of judgments which provide you the guidelines that okay, it is a case of a non-registration of FIR, this Lalita Kumari will tell you. If it is a case of a bail etc., the Arnab Kumar will tell you until case is there. Now if there is a principle of quashing the FIR, Bhajan Lal is there. So you have principles already available on your table. Now the question is this, then in the same situation you may say the Bhajan Lal applies, in the same situation you may say the Bhajan Lal doesn't apply. So this actually happens because sometimes in the supervisory jurisdiction, high courts also end up crossing the limit. They castigate a judge for being relief oriented to a litigant if a judge is from the lower court. This has happened in Delhi, we all know that sometimes the judges in the high court make up certain remarks which play with the career of some brilliant judges, and they are suddenly put on a sort of an unwritten notice that you be very very conservative in giving the reliefs to them, so that जो स्केल होता है वो
दोबारा ट्रेनिंग के लिए भेज दिए कि ऑर्डर कर रहे हैं. ऐसे भी
हो जाता है कि he requires, he doesn't know the law, he needs further training. So वो जो 1 से 10 का स्केल है वो श्रिंक होना शुरू हो जाता है.
तो सर फिर then इसका मतलब a skillful lawyer would also not only know the law in the books, he would also play with the psychology.
Yes.
So it's a mixture of psychology and law.
Yes.
Which exactly translates into relief.
A good lawyer is one who, when he appears for before a judge for the first time, he goes and sits in the court 5 minutes before the court opens, and he has to watch the lawyer, the judge, how the judge has walked into the courtroom, what is the body language of the judge, how the judge is dealing with the staff and the litigant and the lawyers, what is the perception, disposition of the judge. Accordingly, he has to make his submission, because ultimately he has to take the relief and also has to play in the sense, not in the wrong sense, play along with the psychology of the judge so as to be more persuasive. It is
presenting his case.
Yes, it is all about honing my skills of presentation. I need to know, I need to align with the mind of the judge, because it is all mind game, sir, ultimately. Books on the table is all right, but ultimately it is all mind game. The law is a highly intellectual profession. I don't think any
तो
other
सर कुछ
profession.
लिटिगेंट्स जो सोचते हैं कि मेरे 2 मुकदमे हो गए, मेरे को लॉयर से ज़्यादा आता है, तो देन दे आर वेरी वेरी रॉन्ग।
उनसे बड़ा कोई मूर्ख नहीं है। उससे बड़ा कोई मूर्ख नहीं है। आप 100 मुकदमे भी कर लोगे, you will never be able to understand the nuances, because वो सब लॉ स्कूल्स में नहीं पढ़ाई जाती। कोर्ट के जैसे हम लोग क्रॉस एग्जामिनेशन में क्या नहीं पूछना है ये जानना ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है, बजाय इसके कि क्या पूछना है।
करेक्ट।
आपने अपनी क्लाइंट के प्रेशर में आप बहस को ज़बरदस्ती ड्रैग कर रहे हो और आपने कोई ऐसा पॉइंट बोल दिया जिससे आपकी स्ट्रॉन्ग आर्गूमेंट वीक हो जाए, वो उस टेम्पटेशन में नहीं पड़ना चाहिए। तो लॉयर को पता होना चाहिए कि कितनी बहस करनी है, कहाँ किस कोर्ट में कितनी बहस करनी है, कितना हमें फैक्ट सेंट्रिक रखना है, कितना लॉ सेंट्रिक। अगर आप फैक्ट्स पे वीक हो तो आप जजमेंट्स पे ज़्यादा चलोगे, अगर आप फैक्ट्स पे स्ट्रॉन्ग हो तो आप जजमेंट्स की उतनी चिंता नहीं करोगे। और बहुत सारे जजमेंट्स आज की तारीख में तो जजेस को भी इतना आइडिया, सोशल मीडिया में फ़ोन पे ही सब लेटेस्ट जजमेंट्स आ जाते हैं, तो मोटा मोटा जजेस को सबको पता होता है कि भाई अब ये प्रपोजिशन है, इस पे ये लॉ आ गया है। तो लॉ में जहाँ नुआंसेस समझाने की ज़रूरत है वहीं पे जजमेंट खोलें, फैक्ट्स पे मास्टरी हो तो हमारे लिए आसान है। तो लॉयर्स को जो सबसे इम्पॉर्टेंट चीज़ ये है कि दे शुड एटलीस्ट इन द ट्रायल कोर्ट, फर्स्ट कोर्ट में और ओरिजिनल साइड में हाई कोर्ट में, उन लोगों को अपने फैक्ट्स पे मास्टरी होनी चाहिए। लॉ ऑफ कोर्स पता होना चाहिए, क्योंकि अगर आप फैक्ट्स को पढ़ के और जो प्रोपोजिशन आर्टिकुलेट कर रहे हो वो लीगली अगर वो इनकरेक्ट है तो फिर उसका कोई सेंस नहीं।
So why government is the highest litigant in spite of Section 80 and in spite of the fact that Supreme Court भी कहती है, High Court भी कहती है कि जी गवर्नमेंट को अपील फाइल करने के लिए बहुत there should be some matter, it should not be filed as a matter of course. आप तो रहे हैं गवर्नमेंट को, तो from that person क्या उनके ऊपर प्रेशर रहता है, they don't want to take their responsibility on themselves, that may be one reason. But then how you please
this
tell
is
your experience.
जो आपने बोला, this is one of the strongest reason कि सरकारी तंत्र में कोई भी ब्लेम स्वयं पे नहीं लेना चाहता। वो ये कहते हैं कि अगर कोई निर्णय हो गया है फाइल पे, हमें तो उस फाइल के निर्णय को डिफेंड करना है, और जितनी भी हमारे पास उस जुरिडिक्शनल हायरार्की में जितने भी ऑप्शंस अवेलेबल हैं, हमें बॉटम से लेकर टॉप तक सब में जाना है, ऐसी उनकी मान्यता रहती है। अब उसमें एक और उनके पास एक और समस्या ये रहती है कि उनमें से आकर अगर उनको ये समझाओ कि आप इसमें अपील मत डालो, तो उनके मन में ये रहता है कि जी अगर अपील नहीं डाली, कल को हमारे खिलाफ कोई इंक्वायरी शुरू हो गई तो फिर क्या होगा। वो कहेंगे कि आपने तो इसमें गवर्नमेंट का ये रिवेन्यू लॉस हो गया। अच्छा, मैक्सिमम मैटर्स में वो गवर्नमेंट का जो रिवेन्यू लॉस होता है वो उनके परसेप्शन में होता है। वो गवर्नमेंट का जो कर्मचारी है वो गवर्नमेंट की सीट पे बैठ के वो भूल जाता है कि सिटीजन वो पब्लिक सर्वेंट है। अल्टीमेटली वो पब्लिक, ये पूरा गवर्नमेंट ऑफिस या गवर्नमेंट तंत्र पब्लिक की सर्विस के लिए क्रिएट किया गया, तो सिटीजन के भी राइट हैं। उसकी आदत हो जाती है सिटीजन के राइट को डिनाई करने में आनंद लेने में, और वो उसके सिस्टम में एक परवर्सिटी डेवलप हो जाती है। सैडिस्टिक प्लेजर कह लीजिए, सैडिस्टिक ना भी हो तो वो परवर्सिटी है और वो उसको पता नहीं लगती है। इट इज़ एन इनविजिबल अनरियलाइज्ड परवर्सिटी विच ही हार्बर्स एंड कैरीज इन हिज हार्ट, and he doesn't realize that there can be other side also. For that the lawyers have also to take the responsibility and the senior officers have to take the responsibility. I, in my capacity as Additional Solicitor General, have succeeded in persuading the government in large number of cases to change their original position and come to the rescue of the litigant or the citizen and change their point of view, or at least to climb down, not to take the extreme position. And in Supreme Court, I have the huge satisfaction of giving at least 70% of my opinions which used to come to me. Amongst all the ASGs, I used to get a lion's share of opinions as to whether to go in an SLP or not, and 70% of my opinions were to be not to go for SLP. and most of the negative opinions which you give to the government, you don't file SLP, most of them will come back at your table once again for reconsideration. The government officer will not give up, and especially the revenue people will not give up. They will come out with no, but this judgment is there, you have not considered this. Then I will tell them, no sir, I have considered this. You have not considered that point. I have considered that point also.
So which rank of official will communicate with you? He will not be having that legal knowledge. How?
No, in tax and revenue matter, they are very well equipped because they are doing it day and night. They are aware of all the legal knowledge also, so far as tax is concerned. But in other matters like in surveys or any other subject, it was also my misunderstanding before I started government doing government work, that the government people do not know anything. This perception we should give up. Our bureaucrats and these babus, as we call them, they are very well versed with their subject. Their domain knowledge of their subject is par excellence. We don't have a banana bureaucracy. They have a very solid bureaucracy. They know in fact too much, that is their problem. Because they know too much, so they lose that element of compassion for the people. Because the knowledge overtakes the compassion. So they become heartless, and they want to see everything from the prism of technicality. This rule, that rule, it cannot be done. Their approach is it cannot be done.
So you were earlier standing counsel of in the
Yes.
Delhi High Court also.
Yes,
What is this hierarchy? There's government pleader, standing counsel, then additional solicitor, and solicitor, then attorney. This is all not defined, I suppose, in Advocates Act. Can you throw some light on this?
In Advocates Act, there are only two types of advocates. One is an advocate, other is a senior advocate. And for a senior advocate, under the Advocates Act, a separate role is maintained. So we have a separate role once we are designated by any High Court or Supreme Court. So far as the Advocates Act is concerned, it acknowledges only advocates and senior advocates.
And there is one more class which is created by Supreme Court, saying that advocate on records.
Advocate on record, yeah, that is a very that is a court-centric institution for Supreme Court. Because Supreme Court, the litigation comes from all over the country, and the system of maintaining files, giving them numbering, and compiling the files in different parts of the country was different. So Supreme Court, right in the beginning, appreciated that there has to be a uniformity in the litigation which is brought before Supreme Court. So Supreme Court created this institution of advocates on record, and it requires quite a good deal of skills, and you know it better that how difficult the exam is.
No, I am advocate on record.
That's why I'm saying you know how difficult the exam is. So it is a good thing. So now the government, in the government hierarchy, we are like the government becomes our client. So at the state level, there is Advocate General, which is defined in the Constitution. Every state will have an Advocate General, and then additional Advocate Generals. Then they can also create a third tier of Deputy Advocate Generals or Assistant Advocate Generals, whatever they may call them. And then you have a senior panel, and then a panel which is usually called as General Pleaders, the government pleaders, GPs as we call them. Like in Delhi, central government appoints Central Government Standing Council, because Delhi not being a state and a union territory doesn't have a Advocate General. So therefore state government has its own panel and central government has its own panel. State government functions with Senior Standing Council Criminal and Senior Standing Council Civil, and under them there are additional standing councils and then panel councils. Central government level, they are Central Government Standing Councils, and then panel A councils and general pleaders or the government pleaders, GPs. These are the three categories of lawyers. So far as Supreme Court is concerned, Attorney General for India and Solicitor General of India are the constitutional positions. Additional Solicitor General of India not specifically defined in constitution but nonetheless have existed traditionally since the beginning as the extended arm of the law officers team in Supreme Court. Thereafter, central government started appointing additional solicitor generals for high courts also, because the central government realized that even the high courts, in the high courts it is the major litigant. You have already asked me a question why government is such a big litigant. I will come to it little later. So to handle this, we have ASGs now in almost all. Initially, they were all like 4 ASGs for 4 different regions of the country. Then all important high courts, and now even lesser important high courts have started having ASGs or deputy additional solicitor generals, which used to be earlier called as assistant solicitor generals. So now basically it is solicitor, additional solicitor, and deputy solicitor general.
So they cannot take any cases against the government.
Yeah, we cannot take any accept any case against central government. Even if central government is indirectly involved. For instance, there is a government company which is controlled by a ministry directly. For instance, against DDA. As ASG, I could not have accepted a litigation against Delhi Development Authority, which is controlled by Ministry of Urban Development. So it is like that. Now,
there are certain societies also which are governed by ministers.
Yes.
And some babus also. What is that?
That is a system, because those societies were created for serving either government employees or some partially hybrid model, some government function and some government employees. So it depends upon the constitution of the society, whether society is under the Cooperative Act or under some statutory regime. It depends upon them, because society is a very loose expression. Even
like Container Corporation of India.
These are all companies, incorporated companies. So there the system is that they are extended arm of your enforcement agencies. So Container Corporation is sort of aimed to manage the infrastructure system, but it is all under the overall surveillance or supervision of the custom authorities. They know the movement that go.
But then their shareholding is of those individuals also.
Yes, it is.
So how can babus have a profit and share in that?
No, babus do not have a profit share. They only would have their salaries. The only thing is the government. If the government is the stakeholder, the government would like to have a control. Wherever government has a stake, government will have its nominee director. So these corporations are controlled by the board of directors, where the government's nominee director and sometimes a bureaucrat is the main person who holds the reins of that corporation. And the reason why the government is the biggest litigant is this, that citizen versus government has, since time immemorial, this has always been the problem. In the kingdoms where the king used to be the supreme person to reign, people didn't have courage to go against the government, but they would still come and complain that आपके वजीर ने ऐसा कर दिया, आपके सेनापति ने ऐसा कर दिया. शिकायतें तब भी आती थी, वो भी गवर्नमेंट के एक्सटेंडेड आर्म्स होते थे. आपके कोतवाल ने ऐसा कर दिया, तो राजा फिर न्याय करता था. So citizen would always have in day-to-day life will have a problem. If he is not receiving water, he will have a case against government. If he is not receiving basic amenity, he will have a case against government. And there is so much of service jurisprudence. Promotional avenues are very less. People are dissatisfied in the government jobs. And then there is always an element of envy. गलत आदमी को आपने promote कर दिया, मुझे नहीं किया. And then we have a very complex reservation system. So that is one line of. Then pension related issues are there.
सर कोई आपके पास ऐसा केस आपको याद हो जिसमें आपको लगे कि इसमें केस में रिलीफ बनता था बट नहीं दिया, तो एंड देन यू फील डिससैटिस्फाइड फॉर सम रीजन कि भाई दिस इज शुड हैव बीन डन?
यस, मेरे पास एक केस आया जिसमें पिटिशनर दो जगह से हार के आई हैं। एक महिला थी जो जिनकी हियरिंग इशू था, पर्सन विद डिसेबिलिटी एक्ट में कवर्ड थी, और अब पर्सन विद डिसेबिलिटी आपकी रिजर्वेशन रिजीम में इंक्लूडेड है, यानी आपको एक मिनिमम एक परसेंटेज सरकारी जॉब्स में PWD कैटेगरी के लोगों को भी देनी है, अपार्ट फ्रॉम the SC, ST and OBCs. You have to create a reservation for PWD also. And within PWD वो visually impaired और जो दूसरी disabilities हैं उनका भी एक independent segregated quota है। अब here is a petitioner who wrote UPSC examination. Her merit was good enough for her to be selected in IRS, income tax, which is I think in the प्रायोरिटी ऑफ चॉइस इज थर्ड और फोर्थ। भाई एक ज़माने में जब हम लोग स्कूल में थे तो सबसे मोस्ट कोवेटेड सर्विसेज इंडियन फॉरेन सर्विस होती थी। लोग जो UPSC के टॉपर्स होते थे वो IFS ले लेते थे, ऐसा हमने सुना। अब तो सब ISC लेते हैं, IPS भी ले लेते हैं। IFS अब थोड़ा नीचे चला गया है, लेकिन अगर आप IAS, IPS, IFS को छोड़ दें तो उसके बाद तो फिर ये कस्टम डायरेक्ट टैक्स और इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स में IT और कस्टम एक्साइज जो इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स में ये, तो IRS बनने की क्षमता मतलब उसकी उस जोन में थी वो कैंडिडेट। अब उसका एक सिस्टम होता है कि जी आपका मेडिकल एग्जामिनेशन होगा, अगर आप उससे डिससेटिस्फाइड हैं तो एक अपीलेट बोर्ड होगा, और अपीलेट बोर्ड ने भी आपके खिलाफ दे दिया तो फिर आपको नहीं देंगे। तो उनका रिजेक्ट हो गया, वो सेंट्रल एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव ट्रिब्यूनल में गई, वहाँ से रिजेक्ट हो गया, हाई कोर्ट में गई, वहाँ से रिजेक्ट हो गया, सुप्रीम कोर्ट में आई, 2 जजमेंट उनके खिलाफ थे। भारत सरकार की तरफ से एफिडेविट जा चुका था कि इनका नहीं हो सकता, ये एलिजिबल नहीं है उसके लिए, इन्होंने जो भी पैरामीटर्स थे क्वालिफाई नहीं किए, हमारा डिसीजन बिल्कुल सही है, शी कैन नॉट। व्हेन द फाइल रीच्ड मी, आई स्टडीड द फाइल बिकॉज आई हैड ए जनरल सिंपैथी for 2 reasons. She was a woman from a P-tier town who must have come from some smaller town to reach the capital of that state, studied, और इतनी hearing disability, इतनी शारीरिक अक्षमताओं के बावजूद उन्होंने मेहनत करके एक एग्ज़ाम निकाला। और तो मुझे लगा कि कहीं ऐसा तो नहीं कि कुछ पैरामीटर्स जो एग्ज़ामिनर थे बोर्ड के, मेडिकल बोर्ड के, उन्होंने समझे नहीं या समझाने में कमी रह गई, कहीं ये ना हो कि इनके साथ अन्याय हो जाए। तो दैट फीलिंग ऑफ मी कि भाई मैं शुरू से मैंने जब ये ASD की पोजीशन जब ली थी, मैंने इस बात को माना था कि आई एम हेयर टू सर्व लीगल ऑफिस वेयर आई एम नॉट द स्पोक्स पर्सन ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट। I'm a law officer of the government who has to ensure that the justice is done. I am a law officer who will assist the court in dispensing justice to the public. And if I am opposing a bail and I believe that the person has done wrong and he should not be enlarged on bail, then I have no problem. I am doing it with all my conviction that it is also a service to the society. But suppose somebody is languishing in jail for without any trial and is almost to complete the maximum punishment, then I have to revise my system in the mind and decide whether I am opposing it or not opposing it. So I am not a spokesperson. So I was very clear in my approach as ASD. So
in those cases you had an option of conceding.
I would tell the officer that there is no case to oppose. This person will get bail and you should expedite the trial. I will rather seek statistics from them कि तुमने कितने विटनेस करा लिए, इसमें से कितने पुलिस के हैं, कितने पब्लिक हैं, क्या चांसेस है कि अगर ये बाहर आ गया तो ये इन्फ्लुएंस कर पाएगा ट्रायल को, और तुम्हारे पास वो विटनेस हैं भी या नहीं है, साफ साफ बताओ क्या पोजीशन है। और वो सब समझ के मैं I will take them into confidence. This is what I am going to do. Also give them an option that if they want to change the law officer, they may change. But if I am going to do this. So it is not that I will take the government by surprise, go and concede something without forewarning them. I would tell them that this is not to be contested, this cannot be contested, or contesting it will be absurd, and I am not here to do absurd things in the court, because लॉ ऑफिसर की भी तो इमेज गवर्नमेंट की इमेज है. अगर गवर्नमेंट का कंट्री का नंबर 3 पोजीशन का लॉ ऑफिसर कोर्ट में जाकर एब्सर्ड बहस करेगा तो सरकार पे रिफ्लेक्शन नहीं आएगा कि सरकार का एक लॉ ऑफिसर बेवकूफ़ी की बहस कर रहा है. तो ये भी तो, और क्या मेरे एडवोकेट फ्रेटर्निटी पे रिफ्लेक्शन नहीं आएगा कि मैं 37-38 साल की एक्सपीरियंस में 18 साल से मैं सीनियर डेजिग्नेटेड हूँ, एक एब्सर्ड बहस कर रहा हूँ कोर्ट के लिए. तो ये सब चीज़ें मेरी छोड़िए, मेरे जो इंस्टीट्यूशन है, मुझे इंस्टीट्यूशन का भी तो सम्मान, उसकी भी तो इमेज का ख्याल रखना है.
And the youngsters also.
Yes.
And,
And what message I am going to the young generation, that you can do and you can say anything in the court merely because you have a uniform and you can enter the court.
So I must say that I had a privilege when I was holding the court in district judiciary. I had an opportunity that you had been appearing in few of the matters.
Yes.
I remember.
Yes.
And at that time also I was very much impressed the way you had been advancing your arguments and with all calmness. So that was a great inspiration even to me. अब क्वेश्चन ये है कि जो जजेस हैं they lose their balance very often. They sometimes treat it as a कि कोई प्रोटोकॉल का ही कुछ ले जाते हैं कि भाई इस वकील ने, एक जज साहब, आई शुड नॉट नेम हिम बट डिस्ट्रिक्ट जुडिशरी की बात कर रहा हूँ, एंड ही वाज कैंडिड इन सेइंग दैट आई हैव डिसमिस्ड द बेल एप्लीकेशन बिकॉज़ द लॉयर हैज नॉट बिहेव्ड प्रॉपर्ली.
This in my view, Rajesh ji, is very, very improper. The judge should rise above his personal prejudices, his baggage, and his personal experience at the bar with the member of the bar. वकील की गलती के लिए कभी लिटिगेंट को, देखिए कंज्यूमर ऑफ जस्टिस कौन है? कंज्यूमर ऑफ जस्टिस लिटिगेंट. लिटिगेंट के वकील से अगर कोई आई वुड से इनडेकोरस बिहेवियर भी हो गया तो उस इनडेकोरस बिहेवियर की सज़ा उसके मुवक्किल को नहीं मिलनी चाहिए, पहली चीज़. और मैं तो यहाँ तक मानता हूँ कि मान लिया आज आप सपोज आप जज हैं, आप सिविल रोस्टर में बैठे थे, आपने सिविल रोस्टर में एक क्लाइंट का केस आपने हैंडल किया, आपने उस पर वो आपकी निगाह में आया कि ये आदमी और इस आदमी का झगड़ा है, और उस आदमी का कोई कंडक्ट था जो उसमें आपको पसंद नहीं आया, उसके लिटिगेशन में आपके जहन में ये रह गया, कोई लंबी बहस हुई और आपने देखा कि इसने तो बड़ी हेरा फेरी करी. और मान लिया उसी व्यक्ति आपका रोस्टर चेंज हुआ, आप क्रिमिनल साइड में आ गए और आप उसने बेल लगाई और वो बड़ा ट्रिवियल सा मैटर था जिसमें बेल बननी है, और अगर आप अपने पिछले रोस्टर का बैगेज लेकर इस कोर्ट में बैठे हैं, अरे ये तो वो वाला बंदा है जिसका तो मैंने वो सिविल भी देखा था, इसने वहाँ बदमाशी की थी, तो ये तो है ही चोर, तो इसको तो मैं बेल दूंगा ही नहीं. जबकि उसके जो केस आपके सामने आज है उसमें मेरिट्स हैं उसके बेल देने के. तो मेरी समझ में पुराने रोस्टर का बैगेज भी जज को नहीं कैरी करना चाहिए. लॉयर से नाराज़गी की तो बहुत बहुत दूर की है, उस व्यक्ति के खिलाफ भी अगर आपकी कोई पूर्व धारणा है तो उस प्रायर प्री कंसीव्ड नोशन पे जो फैक्ट्स फाइल जो है वो सबसे ज़्यादा सैंक्टिटी कोर्ट में फाइल की है. फाइल जो बोलती है उसमें से देखिए, हाँ उसमें अगर आपका डिस्क्रिशन है कि आपको लगता है कि ये अगर मैंने इसको रिलीफ दे दी तो ये इसका मिसयूज़ करके ये जो क्राइम जो कंप्लेनेंट है उसको विक्टिमाइज करेगा, वो अलग इशू. बट आप उस कारण से डिस्क्रिशन ना इस्तेमाल करके किसी एक्सट्रेनियस कारण से डिस्क्रिशन इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं, जिसमें से ये भी एक्सट्रेनियस रीज़न है कि वकील साहब से नाराज़ हो गया. और वकील साहब की भी प्रॉब्लम हो सकती है, ही इज़ ऑल्सो ह्यूमन बीइंग. जस्ट लाइक एज ए जज you are losing your temper, sometime a lawyer may also end up losing his temper because he may have a bad day. So therefore you have to understand, you have to counsel yourself that other persons, you also always should try to put yourself in the shoes of the other person and appreciate for a minute whether there is any justification in his behavior. If you find it is outrightly unjustified, ignore him, or best is, as the good judges in old days would do, they will adjourn the matter for a week and say, all right, today there is a lot of heated exchange in the court. It is better that I don't decide anything today. You come next week, we will see. Tomorrow is another day. This is how it should be done.
So what is your guidance to the new generation lawyers? Those lawyers who want to have litigation as their subject, or those lawyers also who are more focused about Netagiri, and those also who want to go to corporate sectors, I mean in company affairs. So we have various category of lawyers. So what, please guide.
देखिए, सबसे बड़ी चीज़ है राजेश जी, वकील को अपने दिल की सुननी चाहिए, जो उसका जिसमें नेचुरल टैलेंट उसको लगता है. अगर वो लगता है कि कॉर्पोरेट बहुत अट्रैक्टिव लगता है, कॉर्पोरेट उतना अट्रैक्टिव नहीं है, उसमें बहुत लॉन्ग आवर्स होते हैं, बहुत ट्रैवलिंग भी इन्वॉल्व होती है, और उसमें एक अलग लेवल का आप पे प्रेशर रहता है, बिकॉज आप कॉर्पोरेट में इन्वॉल्व होते हैं जब क्लाइंट को एक नया बिजनेस सेटअप कर रहा होता है. उसके कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स जो आगे जाने वाले टाइम में उसके 20 साल 30 साल में उसके इन्वेस्टमेंट्स को डिटरमिन करने वाले हैं. तो इट इज़ ए वेरी सीरियस थिंग कॉर्पोरेट. सो वो अगर आपकी स्टडी उस फील्ड में निश एरिया में अच्छी है, आपको लगता है कि आप लॉन्ग आवर्स सिटिंग के कर सकते हो, 10-10 12-12 घंटे बैठ सकते हो एक क्यूबिकल के अंदर बिना किसी मच सोशल इंटरेक्शन के. क्योंकि लॉ फर्म्स में तो कई जगह मोबाइल फ़ोन भी अलाउ नहीं करते हैं, कैमराज लगे होते हैं आपके सर पे. आपने कितना टाइम टॉयलेट में, वो जो ऑल माई सन्स जो हमने B.Com ऑनर्स में किताब पढ़ी थी, जो कैलर की नॉवल थी, जिसमें वो कहता है ना कि दी सेम जो कैलर हु नोज हाउ मेनी मिनट्स हिज एम्प्लॉइज स्पेंड इन टॉयलेट्स. सो द लॉ फर्म्स के जो कल्चर है उनमें तो उनको पता होता है उनका लॉयर ने कितना टाइम खाना खाने में लगाया.
टाइमर मशीन्स लगी हुई हैं.
सो देयरफॉर
4 पंच होते हैं.
अगर आप उस रिजीम के लिए तैयार हो तो आप जाओ. थ्रिल जो है लिटिगेशन डिस्प्यूट लॉयर बनने में है, कोर्ट में आप दिन में सैकड़ों लोगों से मिलते हो, आप आइडियाज़ एक्सचेंज करते हो, आपका इंटरेक्शन से आपकी आप जो बोल रहे हैं कि इक्वानिमिटी होनी चाहिए, कूलनेस होनी चाहिए, वो सब वहाँ से आ सकती है. और आप जितने लोगों से मिलोगे उतने लोगों से उनके गुण अवगुण सीखोगे. फिर आप फिल्टर करोगे कि मेरे लिए क्या ठीक है, मेरे लिए क्या ठीक नहीं है, मुझे क्या फॉलो करना चाहिए. तो ब्रांचेज ऑफ लॉ चुनने में भी हमें सिविल, क्रिमिनल, टैक्स, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन जो भी जाना है, और बहुत उसमें जल्दबाजी नहीं करनी चाहिए. आप फर्स्ट डे ही ना डिसाइड कर लें कि मुझे यही बनना है. अगर आप में बहुत स्ट्रॉन्ग स्ट्रीक है कि नहीं मैंने क्रिमिनल लॉयर ही बनना है तो ठीक. अदरवाइज यू शुड try to give yourself a chance, try to do everything and then choose for yourself. Sometimes client will choose for yourself. Suppose आपने एक ऐसी जगह काम किया जहाँ 3-4 तरह के मुकदमे हैं, और किसी मुकदमे में आपने बहुत बढ़िया काम करा, वो क्लिक कर गया, उसमें आपकी रेपुटेशन बन गई, तो क्लाइंट्स आना शुरू हो जाएंगे. क्या पता वो आपको उसी जगह एक्सपर्ट बना दें. तो give life an opportunity to make you expert rather than you deciding every time that I have decided to be an expert on this line. I think that is a myopic approach. The more open approach is to give life an opportunity to unveil yourself, to discover yourself. You discover yourself by giving yourself an opportunity, and let life discover you rather than you discovering all the time. And the ethics, as I was saying about that lady's case which I did, I persuaded the secretary level persons to file a new affidavit in the court that we will examine her case afresh. We got the medical board and appellate board set up again, and it was found that the grace which should have been given to the candidate of PWD for extra decibels was not given to her. And there was a mistake in the earlier first round of medical board and the appellate board. And when that mistake was rectified, she was able to get that job, and she is today working in that IAS. Another thing I did when I was High Court Delhi ASG, a boxer, his marking was done wrongly for his Arjuna award, or yes, for Arjuna award. his marking was done wrongly, it was not calculated. He filed a petition. I asked the sports ministry people to get me the original papers. I sat with the original papers with them. I checked the marking. I pointed out this is what you have not added to his marks. That marks were added. He was found eligible. We went back to the court, made a statement that it was a mistake. We are giving him the award. Last minute, his name was added in the list of the president's invitee, and he was able to get it.
सर जब सक्सीड करते हैं बहुत अच्छा लगता है मेरे को. अब ये इंटरव्यू में विराम लगाना पड़ेगा क्योंकि अदरवाइज इट विल बिकम टू लॉन्ग. टॉपिक्स बहुत ज़्यादा हैं. आपसे सेकेंड थर्ड राउंड और करेंगे. और आज बहुत अच्छा लगा आपके साथ डिस्कशन में. बहुत सारी चीज़ें सीखने को मिली और मेरे व्यूअर्स को भी बहुत सारी बातें पता लगी होंगी दैट हाउ ए लॉ ऑफिसर फंक्शंस एंड व्हाट आर द माइंडसेट्स ऑफ द लीगल एंड द गवर्नमेंट एंड देयर लीगल ऑफिसर्स. और सर हमारी चाय भी ठंडी हो रही है. वी शुड हैव दैट आल्सो. एंड थैंक यू वेरी मच एंड ऑल द बेस्ट ऑफ लक. जय हिंद.